Make the most of every moment. Enjoy guaranteed 4 p.m. late checkout with the Fine Hotels and Resorts program, thanks to the American Express Platinum Card. It's just one of the benefits each time you stay at over 1,000 iconic 5-star properties around the world. Another relaxing way, American Express has your back. Search Amex Platinum Life to learn more. Terms and conditions apply.
You're listening to Errol Parker and Clancy Overall, editors of the Batuta Advocate, on Desert Rock FM. Hello, readers, and welcome to episode 4 of the Batuta Advocate podcast, live from the Koala Studios in downtown Batuta. It's been a busy week in the news cycle, a lot of cricket and a lot of bullshit across all codes.
Seems there's just too much pressure on these young sports stars these days, and that's why we're talking to Manly Sea Eagles legend Cliff Lyons today to discuss how things have changed since yesteryear, when things were a bit simpler.
Now, this week of drama, of course, finished with a bit of a highlight with the Easter long weekend. To our loyal listeners, hoping you enjoyed your break. What did you get up to, Errol?
On Good Friday, I had the in-laws over for a barbecue, and then I went out to the lake, got wankered in the sun, got a bit sunburnt. Yeah, it's about it.
Oh, mate, that sounds all right. I went out with a few spotties in the Adler with some of my cousins, which is always fun. I don't think that we'll be finding too many bunnies visiting the northern districts for quite a while. I'll tell you that much, mate. Now, enough about my degenerate relatives who are on their way back to Charleville, thank fuck. What else happened in the news this week?
Well, there was Malcolm's big tax breaks for big business. It kind of harks back to the golden era of trickle-down economics. It's got all the hallmarks of some neo-Reaganomics.
Yeah, Reaganomics. So that's President Reagan. Errol, as someone who's travelled the US extensively in the 80s, can you explain to me a little bit about what that means and who does it affect?
Well, basically what Reagan did is that he took all these big companies and he brought them over for lunch and he said, look, I'm going to have to ask you to pay less tax. And they did pay less tax, but the deal was that the savings that these businesses were going to get, it was supposed to trickle down the line to the employees, which of course it never did. Yeah, there's always room in someone's pocket for a bit of money, so most of it stayed at the top and didn't indeed trickle down to the bottom.
It looks like that's happening here. It looks like that's what everyone seems to be concerned about. Now, in international news, the humble leader of the Republic of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, has made his way to China, travelling on an armoured train to Beijing. The prodigal son had attempted to circumvent censors, but you know, with camera phones and whatnot, that was a bit hard. Now, what was the reason for the visit, you reckon, Errol?
He travelled to Beijing to meet with Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, to put in plans for the future, like a roadmap to removing nuclear weapons from the Korean Peninsula. But that's wholly dependent now on how Donald Trump reacts to this. The ball's in his court. Now, that's pretty much all that's happened in the week in news, aside from what's happening in the cricket. Clancy, what the fuck's been going on over there?
Well, Errol, what we've learned is that Australian captain Steve Smith and vice-captain David Warner conspired to have Cameron Bancroft, another cricketer in the team, a younger bloke, to tamper with the ball during play. And some say it was tape, some say it was sandpaper that he was using. Nevertheless, it was a fucking weird thing to do, and they've been punished severely. Warner and Smith have been banned for 12 months, Bancroft for 9 months. They should be able to play next year's Ashes and World Cup in England and Wales, but it really depends if the selectors are looking at them again. Errol, do you think this punishment is too severe? And do you think they could have avoided this shit show altogether?
I reckon they've broken the old mantra of deny, 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 which has served a lot of sports stars very well in the past. I don't think the punishment's too severe. I mean, the public reaction to it was pretty telling. I reckon it's the right punishment. They probably couldn't have avoided the shit show, in your own words. I think it was pretty unavoidable once it ended up on the big screen there with Cameron Bancroft and his sandpaper.
And why do you think the backlash from the public's been so severe? I mean, it's coming from all angles, our publication included, but what is it that makes Australians so happy to turn the laser on the people representing them overseas?
Well, you know, this is the land of the tall poppy. We love to see big, powerful and talented people be cut down to the bottom down here with the rest of us. And I think the fact the Australian cricket team are no longer underdogs in the public eye. I think now that they've become arrogant world beaters, people were looking forward to seeing them fall. Australia was built on the back of the three main pillars of Western society. There's, you know, war, racism and cheating. Are we hypocrites?
I mean, yes, for the most part, Australians very, very much are hypocrites, particularly if you look at the other stuff that's been going on in South Africa, politically. You look at the news cycle in general. At any given time, Australians are getting pissed off about things that, with a slightly different narrative, they might champion.
Well, speaking of outright hypocrisy, the Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, he came out and gave his 2 cents to the public on this matter. Do you think he's ever been sledged before?
Look, Turnbull's definitely been sledged in a political arena, and we've seen that, but I don't think prior to entering politics he would have been sledged too badly. He, working for the Packers as a lawyer, he's definitely the one probably doing the sledging in the alpha status, even in that family. And also as a banker, of course, what he says goes. So in terms of sledging, I don't think he's been sledged outside of politics, which in politics it's not even that it's not even that hurtful. In grade sport, it's pretty hurtful. In high level sport, as we learned from Warner and de Kock, it's very hurtful. But where he would have been playing at a social level.
Do you reckon he's ever played competitive sport before?
Yeah, social level, I reckon. I don't think he's had a bit of venom thrown at him by anyone too serious.
Yeah, right. Well, do you reckon the cricketers can come back from this, Clancy? Do you think the nation will forgive them? Do you think the nation can forgive them for what they've done?
Well, this is the first kind of scandal we've had with the 24-hour news cycle and social media news as well. So everyone knows about this, whereas back in the day, if someone speaks to a bookmaker, the only people that know about that are people that are invested in sport. Everyone's reading this right across the country, even people who don't know anything about sport.
Well, we did forgive Shane Warne for taking a banned diet pill. He took that diet pill to flush all the steroids out of his shoulder.
Allegedly.
After a shoulder reconstruction. He ran the risk and he got pinged. And he copped the 12 months at the height of his career, and then he come back and he's done good ever since. We forgave Trevor Chappell, although he didn't cheat at all and he didn't do anything other than obey his big brother. I don't think there's too much you can fault him for that. How do you think they'll come back from this? They've got to win the trust back of the people. They've got to win the trust back of their sponsors.
Well, they are losing financially and socially. There's no more OLED televisions for Warner, no more Weet-Bix for Smith. Whoever sponsored Bancroft.
It could be Bunnings or Mitre 10.
Yeah.
After 9 months.
They'll be running now anyway.
Yep.
Now, the game has been tarnished forever. A lot of people are worried. A lot of people are worried that the kids are looking up at these blokes and saying, I don't want to be that. I'm going to go play baseball or whatever else there is to play in summer. Brett Lee allegedly said that he and nearly every other pace bowler of his ilk tampers the ball. However, he's always been a bit Hollywood, that bloke. You can't really take his word for it. You just need to look at some of his mates, Hugh Sheridan, Kevin Spacey, all his friends in Bollywood. I mean, is he a good voice? Or is cricketing culture in general, is that what needs to change?
Well, yeah, as we said last week in the podcast with Joyride, we said that most elite sportsmen in this country are in fact cunts, and you need to be a cunt in order to be a successful cunt in your chosen sporting field.
Well, that does bring us to our next point, and one of the biggest stories in our town and our publication this week. Obviously, we came in hot with that stuff on last week's podcast, as you just mentioned, Errol. As a lot of readers might know, Cricket Australia did bite back. Now, the email we received on Monday night is as follows. From Cricket Australia to the editor of the Batuta Advocate, to whom it may concern, please find attached a letter from our legal department. Our organisation is all for a laugh, and as you know, we are more than happy to have you guys in the Gabba pool when the Brisbane Heat are playing at home, but as you can imagine, we are under siege at the moment, and you are not helping, especially with that podcast. Please consider whether you want it to stay up or not, or else our relationship will change dramatically, trusting you understand the tone. Now, we won't go into the legal jargon that made up the attached letter, but what did you make of all this, Errol? Obviously, we did leave it up.
Well, I don't know if we're ever going to be allowed in the Gabba pool again. Certainly that's no big loss. I mean, there was last time we were there and I put my head under and I got an ear infection, and you put your head under the next week and you got oral chlamydia, wasn't it?
Something like that. Anyway, we don't...
In the side of your mouth.
I don't really know that bloody doctor in the Gabba. Who knows what he was talking about? But, that's something we're going to have to cop as journalists, and our readers are 100% behind us. We're not going to bow down to the spoilt dinosaur that is Cricket Australia. They've got a lot of things on their plate. Who knows why they would bother taking the time to email us? I mean, you don't need to take that just from us. You can take it from our readers or our listeners. Just look at some of the comments that popped up.
Some of the comments we did get on that story, there's one from Evan Stevenson of Newcastle who wrote, "Looks like you've rubbed him the wrong way." Yes, obviously, Evan, thanks for pointing that out. And one from Marco Darko, a Pommy bloke living in Sydney. He said, "Be careful, Batuta advocate. Warnings like this are usually followed by Michael Kasprowitz kneecapping you with a grey nickels as you walk out your car. I'd like to see the cunt try and fucking kneecap me."
Yeah, you're pretty quick off the 100-metre mark.
Now, Clarence, we also published a few stories that they didn't like, including our basic headline that came out of the gates immediately after the press conference.
Yes, we've been writing Cricket Australia since the start of this, Errol. From day one, actually, with this headline. Cricketers apologise to nation for getting caught cheating, which I feel is a pretty clear explanation of what those idiots tried to pull. You know, what made it worse, in fact, was that they got caught cheating. Cheating is much worse when you get caught.
It is. The golden rule of cheating is to not get caught cheating. A few comments on the article there. We had one from Brent Bailey of Melbourne who wrote, "Steve Smith should do 120 hours of serving hot dogs and solos at local cricket clubs." I like the idea, but he does look like the type of bloke who would burn the shit out of one side of the sausage, then turn it over, throw it on your piece of bread and cover it with sauce without even asking you, which is also another form of cheating. It's culinary cheating.
Yeah, Brad Green of Santa Monica over there in California wrote, "The proper way to cheat is through match fixing. Just ask Pakistan and ask Hansi Cronje. Maybe not try Hansi." Well, that was a pretty flippant remark from you, Brad. You obviously know we can't ask the former South African captain Hansi because he was on board a plane that flew into a mountain, which resulted in his alleged death, although there are a lot of truthers out there that reckon Hansi could be living it up in Namibia, running from it all. We'll ask the estate of Hansi for a comment and get back to you, Bradley. Hope LA is everything you thought it'd be. Another story we wrote on this debacle that seemed to penetrate audiences was our article that outlined a possible Ramsey Street comparison. Steve Smith, most disappointing cheater since Carl Kennedy.
Yeah, Nick Taylor of Buninyong down there in Victoria wrote, "I don't see Susan writing such hits as Voodoo Child and Way to Go." Well, Nick, they were both terrible songs, and how dare you say such horrible things about Susan, you fucking Victorian.
Alex Collins, who lists her current city as London, wrote, "I don't give a shit about cricket, but honestly, this is everything, because Susan may have forgiven Carl, but..." Clap emoji, Australia, clap emoji, never clap emoji, will. Alex, what I'd like to say to you is start giving a shit about cricket. It's a fantastic sport that's enjoyed by billions around the world. Also, living in London, you can really stick the knife into those smelly poms when we come over there and whip their pale asses, whenever that happens again. But yes, as a lot of people like Alex, who don't like cricket, will tell you, this scandal has really dominated the headlines to the point where we don't know anything else about what happened in Australia over the last week. Other than Malcolm's corporate tax cuts, no one knows what's going on. For example, Cardinal Pell, he's still in the chair in the Victorian courts, batting off horrific allegations put against him. Obviously something that the Catholic mainstream media has been avoiding mentioning.
It's not just that, Clans. We've also got the NRL managing to swerve the press, mainly because it seems that the boys are much better behaved this year. But Manly did get into a bit of stick this week. The NRL has fined Manly $750,000 for breaches of the salary cap over the past 5 years, while 2 officials have also been banned for 12 months. Must have tampered the balls.
Now, our guest today is a high-ranking member of the club's board, and he's not one of the ones who's in trouble. He's actually one of the all-time great footballers of the club, so much so that they've even got a bar named after him up on the beaches. And he's agreed to have a chat with us about Manly, about footy, and about the changing face of Australian sport in general.
Now, rugby league is a pillar of Australian life. The states that don't have a team representing them might as well secede and get it over with. That's our opinion, and not the one of our guest this week, who was a founding father of the modern game.
Yes, he's a gentleman, a Clive Churchill medalist, an Origin legend, a 2-time premiership winner, and a 2 times Dally M winner. We've made our way down to the prettiest rugby league heartland in Australia to interview the great man, Cliffy Lyons, in the boardroom of the Manly Sea Eagles clubhouse. And I tell you what, the people down here love him. The punters in the Leagues Club TAB looked like clowns at the show when we walked through with this bloke. He's here to talk to us about the changing face of Australian sport, the seriousness, and how it's evolved since his era.
Cliff Lyons, thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's great to be here. Hello, Batuta, wherever that is.
It's on the road out to Birdsville. So,
Birdsville. I've been up there.
About an hour and a half to the east there on the road to Windora.
Windora.
Yeah.
I've been to Birdsville, so that's as good as it gets.
Now, what's going on? You still living in Manly? What have you been doing of late?
I've had a busy day today. Started out this morning. We had a board meeting at the Manly Sea Eagles discussing the salary cap issues, which obviously we are not guilty until proven guilty.
Yeah.
But I started off there and had a business meeting, trying to get a little company together, and now I'm here with you guys.
Yeah. Well, thanks for taking the time, mate.
Yeah, right. So I guess you wouldn't have had too many issues with the salary cap way back when you were playing.
No, no trails there, mate. No paper bags there.
No.
Well covered we were.
Yeah. You could always have a job, couldn't you? If you
Always.
Always, yeah.
You're very safe. These days have changed now. Different.
Yeah.
The way they play rugby league, the way they train. We only had 2 days a week and half a day on Saturday and play Sunday, and away you go.
So that all started to change around the time the Super League came in, didn't it?
Yeah, but not long after Super League, so
Yep.
yeah, it all changed and all went professional,
Yep.
fully professional. Now they train 5 days a week in blocks
Yep.
on different days, and yeah, it's all
I suppose
very
that it would
different.
have been a transition sort of period where you went from the amateur era to the professional era. How was that to be playing in those years, where the game was changing?
When
I
you
think
saw money at the end of the tunnel.
There's a big apple at the end of it. So, but obviously, playing a lot of years in the NRL, you need that carrot at the end of it to retire with. And unfortunately, in my era, the money we got, we sort of spent it. And I actually, for me personally, I bought myself a house. I got a house here. I'm thankful that I did that. Once I retired, I had to get a job and work continuously till now. The money's good for the players now to something at the end of that rainbow. So,
Do you reckon, though, if you were left to your own devices in the evenings and on as much as, someone like Todd Carney might be on, when you were that age, do you reckon you could have found yourself in trouble?
I'm just thankful they didn't have any of those phones around in my day anyway, mate. So I could have been,
Yeah, I
could have been
suppose.
dusted a bit.
Well, all the recent sort of controversies in league have all stemmed from the fact that there's a video camera in everyone's pocket now.
Some
I guess
dickheads
these
do.
days.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, well, when you go out, you don't expect someone to video you.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's your own personal time, and I think what you do in your personal time is up to you. So
There was no iPhones with cameras down at the Stain back in the day.
could have got a lot of coverage out there, mate. I'll tell you, good or bad. You can take.
Now, what about coming from Bush League? At 12 years old, you moved to Sydney.
Yeah, I went to. I first discovered rugby league at Mount Druitt, Tregear. Went to Tregear Public. From there, I got a scholarship for high school in the Cronulla region. Went to Sylvania Kirinari Aboriginal Hostel.
Yeah, and was that was there many schools like that in Cronulla region anyway?
Hostels, you mean?
Yeah.
No. That was the only one I know. Especially was bringing all Aboriginal kids from all New South Wales into that one complex, and then send them out in the community school. Which is good. I enjoyed it, and I learnt a lot, and learned how to grow, and learned how to play rugby league.
Yeah, well, not only the only kind of Koori kids in the area, but the only bush kids in the area of Cronulla, I guess, in that kind of era. But then you did end up in the public school system with rugby league as a sport.
Yeah, it certainly did. Yeah, it was. We didn't do much at the hostel. We sort of lived there, ate there, studied there, and then we go out trainings and that through the week. And obviously, the high schooling, that was pretty good. So yeah, it was awesome.
Do you find, as someone who's kind of lived in different areas around the country, you've got a lot of people claiming you? They're still saying Cronulla. He used to live down the road here.
Yeah, I've found a lot of cousins I didn't know I had. So talk about sort of my relatives doubled when I got a bit famous, and they doubled and tripled, and especially come semi-final times when everybody wants a ticket. They bring it up out of the blue.
Everyone wants a bed.
Remember me? I'm your third cousin on your mother's side, and don't you know me? Don't you know me, cuz?
Now, we're just talking about that Super League before. Right now, rugby union's kind of going through a similar thing where you've got this tycoon with a heap of cash talking about starting his own comp. Pretty similar to what Murdoch was doing back in the day with the Super League. How did that start filtering through the the clubs and
yeah,
the
it
players?
was a battle because the players had to take sides. Obviously, Manly stayed with the NRL. I think in the end, we all just sort of went to Super League. They won the battle. We wanted to stick solid, and I think money-wise, it was silly not to in the end. After the dust settled, you could just see it all. And
Wendell driving a Porsche at 19.
The guys have reaped are still in the still getting paid big bucks now.
Yep.
So it was a good move by them.
It was happening to a lot of sports in the first sort of golden age of Australian sport. Like you had the cricketers were turning pro. You had the leagueies turning pro, and then you had the VFL going pro. And I suppose it was a natural step, though. It was kind of unavoidable that a game that was played in the parks was about to be played in the stadiums.
Yeah, it was, and it was like for all the sports channels that are around, it's big for them as well to get all this recognition, I suppose, from the players. And I think now looking back, we sort of just all went, "Yep, let's go that way," and we could all have been all reaping the rewards.
Yeah. Now your little mate Beaver Menzies often talks about when he first came in, everyone had a job in the afternoon. And by the time he retired, everyone was on salary and it was a different world. What was it like? Were you lined up a job by the club? What was going on with you guys?
Yeah, well, when you sign a contract, a job went with the contract. Depends how high up the chain you were.
What the hell were you doing?
I worked in the Leafs club, but I was a cellarman when I first came here. So they gave me that, and then they gave me accommodation. So they pretty much looked after you. That's all you wanted those days. And obviously then you were on win bonuses, how many games you won, and the more games you won, the higher up the tree you went, the more money you got. So that's why everybody sort of tried a bit hard to get the wins.
Yeah.
So you needed that extra cash, and that was good. You work, you play, and that's it.
And you don't have to pay for a beer when you're down there anyway.
Very rarely that you have to buy one.
Particularly when you're local,
Definitely.
When you're going out in the
The
area.
fans love you. We love the fans, so it was awesome.
In the fallout of the cricket, this ball tampering business that a lot of commentators are saying that this is just a product of sort of win at all costs attitude. And you were just sort of saying before that you used to get a bonus for winning. Do you think that kind of trickles through to all sports, that it's innately Australian to do what needs to be done to win? I
think you do, or I do, as long as it's in the rules, I suppose.
Yeah.
But in saying that, there are certain coaches that tell you to take someone out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Target someone in the other opposition, which you reluctantly do.
Yeah.
Because he's the coach. If you don't listen to him, if you don't do what he says, you're out. So
you're out. Yeah.
I've seen that happen on occasions, but I'm not going to say who it was.
So he's just had a knee recon. You reckon you might want to take a dive on that shin?
Just test that knee out. Will you just kicking the ball? Just take his legs out.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. Do you think inherently on like high level sport, at times you need to be a bit of a fuckwit?
Well, certain individuals are anyway, so they don't need any help. But talking about the cricket again, I love the way they had a meeting about it there. They had a meeting and said, "Yep, we're going to do this. We'll go out and do it." So I think that's fair enough. If the governing body rules, then you go along with it. So they're pretty ballsy, I reckon. So, but they're honest about it. So they're honest about their cheating. So is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah. And then they hurled the young fella just under the bus too.
He got out there.
He'll be all right. He'll play more matches than these guys. He'll definitely got a better chance of captaining again.
He'll get half his pay.
Now, you ended up in England. Were they paying better over there by the time you got there?
Yeah, well, I actually went to England before I came to Manly. So
right.
Not many people know that because I went to, when I went to Gundagai, I stayed there for 3 years. Then I got an invitation to trial with Norse.
Yep.
So I trialled with Norse and got through, made the cut and played a few games there, then signed up with Manly the following year, and in between I'd already signed with Leeds to go to Leeds for the off-season because they play in our off-season here, so I went over there in the winter in the snow and rain and played about 30-odd games over there, came back to Manly. And
how was that going from the Riverina up to Leeds in the... In the height of winter.
To say it was different was playing in snow was just unbelievable. The snow was they send out messages in the morning.
Yep.
SOP, save our pitch. So all the fans will get out there and start shoveling snow off the pitch.
Really?
Real unbelievable. Just shovel.
Different time, eh?
Get them on there, and you go out and you. That's a pitch you're running on like that. You go, oh, they get tackled here today.
Did they love you over there?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
First game I played, I ran out on the pitch, and they started singing Waltz and Matilda, mate. The whole crowd was just like, it was buzzy. It wasn't, my whole body was tingling, mate. Cause for them to do that to me, my first game was just unbelievable. And yeah, they're just lovely people, love their footy, they love singing, cheering, and all that stuff. Yeah, it was probably a good thing that I went over because I learned so much over there.
Yep.
And then I brought that back to Manly, so it was awesome.
Yeah, now Manly's changed. Footy's changed in general. There's a lot more staff. There's a lot more staff above the players now, and you got all kinds of professionals. And you know, right now you do have psychologists, sports psychologists, and sports scientists. And you know, you guys didn't necessarily play in that era. You guys were still having diaries at the bench when you were subbed off, or getting your head stapled if you got cut open, running back out there with blood on it.
Get the staples on.
Yeah,
Awesome.
what's your thoughts on all that?
I think it's going with the times. People getting in your head. It's hard enough getting home and getting your missus in your head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, I suppose in the end it's a tough sport. It's very draining sometimes. I know when you get on a roll in footy and rugby league and you're on that roll, you keep going and you sort of forget about everything else. Where you need to get back on the road, sometimes you go off. And I think maybe needing a sports scientist might bring you back onto that road. I know I struggled a few times where I went missing. But if I had the sports scientist there, you could have dragged me back in, you know.
Yeah.
But
do you think injuries are more prone in your era? Without that kind of people looking at your soft tissue and that kind of stuff? Like
no, I don't think so.
Nah.
I think they're probably prone to more injuries now because they're so intense about their training drills, and their bodies. They're all built the same size. The wingers, front rowers. Yeah. You know, every now and then, or all the time, you see a front rower run down a winger. It's frightening because you start up here in a factory. I'm just a normal level nobody. You go into the factory and you come out the end. A rugby league player.
Yeah, right.
So they're producing that much. They're all the same size.
Your neck shrinks a bit.
Yeah.
Get bigger shoulders.
Well, you did play. You know,
just filter this a little bit, filter that, tweak it here, tweak it there.
No, well, you did play over 300 games. Do you reckon if you had all of this stuff, you probably could have played for 400?
I think you put in the same effort, I suppose.
Yeah.
With I think training was overrated anyway himself. You know, why waste your energy out there when you can save it Sunday? You know what I mean? But I think in the end, you are what you are. You're attrition to it. You train to it. I'd like to try what they do. You know, train in the morning, go and have lunch, and come back and do something else in the arvo. It'd be quite interesting to see. I know that pre-season, I didn't do many pre-seasons because they just had to go out to the Palm Beach and do the sand hills.
Yep.
Sleep in through that one.
That's why I used to go to England. So because I used to go in the off-season, miss all the training, then come back and I'm there in January ready to go.
Ready to go.
Well, this run up bloody down the sand hills.
In the height of summer too.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm not an Iron Man, I'm a football player, mate.
We were talking actually before, Georgie Rose, and you know, you hear yarns from Georgie talking about, you know, he loved playing for Man, he loved the premierships, and everyone loves a premiership, whether you're playing or a fan. But he did say, outside of that, and probably, you know, at times more than that, was the Koori knockout. Did you ever get involved in any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah. I used to play in that all the time.
With your hometown? Cause
with my brothers. Most of my brothers. I never got to play. Oh, I used to play footy out the front yard with them, but that's when we were like 10 and that. But to actually put one out there with them and play footy with them was awesome, and my cousins and that. So we won a knockout. So once, and it was good.
Yeah, the Walgett boys talk about it.
Very hard.
Yeah.
Moree boys are pretty hard. They're mean.
So what was your side? Was it Moree?
We're Koori United.
Right.
So we're a team from Sydney, over Redfern way. So we had the Donovan brothers and the Lyons brothers, and it was all the Cuzzos. So it was awesome.
Yeah, it's
very
great.
tough to win a knockout. back then, because it was obviously it's cleaned up a bit then.
Yeah.
But back then, mate, don't come in there if you haven't got a ticker.
And then you got to be prepared to host it next year.
Well, exactly right. So yeah.
Yeah, no. Who do you think in the current? There's a big debate with this Immortal, which they finally can gather control of that.
Yeah, I'm Immortal.
Yeah.
Oh, personally, I'm not a fan of it.
No.
I don't know how they individualise anybody from playing rugby league and put them up here. I know you got your rep players and that. That's fine. But to immortalise, look, everyone plays rugby league. I think they should immortalise everybody. Anyone that runs out on that pitch, I think I'm just as good as him. I might have played a few more test matches or stuff like that, won a few more grand finals, but I think putting them up on that extra pedestal is probably a bit much.
Yeah.
I feel for the rest of the guys that miss out.
Yeah.
You should have been, he should have been.
Yeah.
How do you define it?
Bit like Lang Park Suncorp with all their statues now. They've gone and given too many. They don't know when they're going to stop.
I know.
Who's getting the next one? Lockie.
It's just...
well, up until sort of recently, it was just the people who chose the Immortals were just a bunch of
journos.
Yeah, were just a bunch of journos who, obviously weren't old enough to be around when, they're all sort of playing in the in the 40s and the 50s.
Yeah, well, I've heard a few people saying, what about the guys that won like 10 grand finals in a row, mate?
Yeah.
They all should be Immortals. Win 10 in a row, flat out win 2 in a row.
We spoke to this old ref who might have actually refed back when you were playing, old Brian Barry, and he said, watching Reg Gasnier play, he said you can do comparisons.
Yeah.
He said that was, this is someone that's sitting around looking at JT and Joey Johns. He said, mate, there was something going on back then. Maybe it's a bit of nostalgia, but everyone always remembers how good it was.
So you got a lot of different eras too, like different types of footy. It all changes every couple of years. Something changes. They bring in another rule, and
Yeah.
to even the training techniques now. How do you define that?
Yeah. And also different influences I find when
techniques.
particularly when we had like a.
Do you think they had vitamins and that back in the 50s and that? And all they had was VB and Tuies, wasn't it? That's all they had.
And
now they're coming after the game. They're eating muffins and stuff, and sitting in ice baths, and
there's
could be in the corner having a smoke and a beer.
There's a lot less Marlboros and a lot more muffins, I guess.
I think I know what I want to warm down. Yeah, and also we can all remember when the Fijian Takiris started playing for Brisbane. There was a different influence, like the Fijian influence, and the Tongans obviously down in Manly way.
Yeah.
Like there's
Canberra had a few to tuck down there.
Yeah.
No one Andruga.
Nagas was
Kenny the Murray.
Yeah. But yeah, they did have the Fijians, and then eventually the game's changed right up to the point where the almost equal in terms of representation, and it's a different type of football. Have you seen that change? Have you noticed that?
You can see a lot of change. All the islanders now that are in rugby league, they're growing so much, and we're feeding them, mate. We're feeding them. They're going to beat us soon, I'll tell you that. We're going to pay the price because we're teaching them. We're giving them some more ammo, and people that they like to represent their countries and that.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It was awesome. That last World Cup was just fantastic. Just to see the NRL boys playing for Tonga and that, and
they get a trip home, see all the family. Yeah.
It was just great.
There's this one yarn that George Rose, he told us a while back. He said, in the off season, he said, I'd have to go and work for my Uncle Craig.
Craig George. He was security, mate.
Yeah, they always used to have jobs. Did you have any jobs in the off season?
Oh, no.
Before the Super League?
We probably just went home to Gundagai for a couple of weeks and just spent a bit of time down with the in-laws and on the property. Got a property down there. We just cruise around, just enjoy the free time that we got, because it was only for a couple of weeks. So we had to put some weight on, some muscle on, or fat on, so I could have something to train off when I get back.
You had to.
Yeah. No good going back there fit, is it? What's the point of pre-season training if you're fit?
What's the point of a season in England if you
If you're fit, why do you have to trade then?
Now, did you have sponsors and that kind of stuff to worry about back then? Because the cricketers, that's what they're shitting their pants about right now.
No, or we had sports apparel sponsors and that.
Yep.
Adidas and that. They give us gear and that, so free gear. So.
You were a bit too...
and Winfield too was a big one
Asics,
back then.
which I went over the Asics then, Asics for a while. So
You were a bit too well kept to get on those Lowe's billboards.
yeah, no, that was way above my league. Leave that to Ciro and the boys.
Yeah. One thing we do want to ask is, did Steve Menzies ever thank you?
Many a times he has. He's done it on purpose. I'm still waiting for the,
For the career.
little paper bag, you know what I mean? Although he's got a laser sort of like golf thing he does.
Yeah.
He's going to give me a free go at it. So
Oh, yeah?
it normally costs $400.
Yeah, sort of.
Thanks, Beaver. Beauty.
And then lastly, Cliff, why does everyone hate Manly? You've had years to think about this. Because I mean, we love you, but we know that a lot of people.
That's why I'm still here, mate, because I still love the joint. I think we put ourselves up above everybody else. I think not like Brisbane, probably a little bit below Brisbane, but we set the standard. So I think that, and we're a successful club. So and we came through the hard times, I suppose, when I first got here. So we all prided ourselves in being on that level up there. You know what I mean? And what you did on the football field, you need to keep it there. If you play at a level up here and you come out next week and play below it, what's the point? You need to be up there. And plus, every win counted because you got extra bonus. There's your incentive there. So we try to keep it on a high level all the time.
And the beaches, they're just jealous of that.
Oh, they're awesome.
Well, I suppose a tiny party.
White sand, crashing waves, sun glittering down on your forehead, VB going down your neck.
I suppose a small part of you, though, was happy to see the Sharks win finally after all that time.
Yes, yep. I got sick of beating them in the semis all the time, knocking them out. I don't know. I've got a place for the Sharkies, don't you worry.
Yeah, that's good, mate.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Cliffy. Good luck with the next few weeks of headlines and Fairfax news. See if we can keep
Thank cross for cricket, I say. Took all the heat off.
Take all the heat off Manly.
I think our politicians are saying that too. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Cliff.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks for having been on.
Great listeners are great learners, right? Well, hear this. Zookle has the cheapest textbooks with up to 70% off. You can even rent them. With a lowest price guarantee and free delivery for orders over $50, the only question is, what are you waiting for? Apart from the end of your podcast. From Shakespeare to marketing to essay writing to video production and everything in between, check out Zookle. Use the code ZooklePodcast for $5 off. Zookle.com.au